wound up in the wall.
You don't see an awful lot of passing going on right now, Paul, and the reason for this is the guys are feeling their cars out. They're all full of fuel. They've got 40 gallons of fuel on board, and they're feeling things out, and they're also looking to see what the other drivers are doing and how their cars are acting.
How much of it do you think, too, though, Bobby, is Jack's precaution that they are very concerned about tire wear here today?
Well, they're really not taking care of their tires right now, and the drivers are just not going to worry about that. They realize it's going to happen, but what they do in place of that is hope that there's a yellow every now and then, because that really saves their mileage on the tires.
Fastest lap thus far, 153 miles an hour, set by Raul Boisel. Let's get an update on him from Jack Arute.
Well, Paul, Bobby Unser talked about how rough this racetrack is and how many grooves there are. Right now, Raul Boisel says his car has a little bit of understeer. He's not at all concerned about it, though, because he feels as the fuel load begins to diminish, the understeer will take the car to what's known as neutral. He's very happy with it right now.
24 miles complete, and already Raul has caught up with the back of the field and has to thread his way through traffic as he comes around Hiro Matsushita.
You know, possibly, as Jack was talking about the fuel loads, just so that people know, the fuel goes right behind the driver. 40 gallons, right behind the driver, between him and the engine, which is also behind him. So that theoretically, the fuel load shouldn't change the car's handling. But of course it does to a minute degree.
Boisel enjoyed that tremendous, almost 5-mile-an-hour advantage over the field at the beginning of the race, and he's once again establishing that advantage now that the race is going on. Most of it comes from his ability to go so fast into the turns. He's not that much faster off the turns, but he dives into them.
Moving through traffic now, Robbie Gordon cuts his way through, as does Paul Tracy. Mario Andretti just behind them, as traffic is the big effect on this particular run, as with most miles. How the leaders come up and overhaul those slower cars is absolutely critical. It requires a certain amount of pacing, Bobby.
Well, it certainly does, and they realize that, hey, this is a 200-lap race, not a race to the first pit stop. The trick, like guys like Robbie Gordon on the left and, of course, Paul Tracy, which is on the right of the screen, the idea is that they don't want to get a lap down. They're pacing themselves now. They're not flat out, but they're definitely not going to get caught too far behind.
Battle for sixth place. Nigel Mansell, you ride with him. Mario Andretti, his teammate, is just in front. And Nigel's looking for any room that he can to get around him, and there he goes. Moving to the inside, darting down, coming in the first turn. Mario's not having any of it.
As they go into the first turn like that, you can see there's a wall over there. So you got to be kind of careful if you're on the outside, that you don't pinch the guy off on the inside into the wall.
Nigel again making a bid, but shut down by Mario, who has won this race 4 times. He's the only multiple winner in the race. Al Unser Jr. has won it once. Otherwise, there are no previous winners other than those 2 men in the race.
On the home stretch, Nigel continues to chase Mario Andretti. Look at his hands. You can see how really rough this track is. When you see that onboard camera, you can see the suspension bounce.
There's cold winters here in Wisconsin and Milwaukee. If everybody's wondering why the track, look at all the patches on it. Those are patches with the track people trying to keep it good, but it's the cold winters that gets it here.
This is the same high line that we saw Nigel Mansell using at Indianapolis. Notice he's way outside of Mario in the turn. He wound up in the wall briefly at Indianapolis, bounced right off the turn 2 wall, but so far he's in good shape here.
Fight continues, a fight for sixth place. It's static at the front. Nigel still working on Mario.
Watch Nigel working high and Mario working low. Now, what he's doing is he's trying to plan a pass. He's faking Mario. The traffic, like right there, ruined the pass for him. But he's faking it. Look at him going by the outside. That's what he's been planning right down there before. If he can suck Mario down, he goes by the outside, which he just did.
Bobby, he looks like an old veteran oval racer, doesn't he, running that high line?
He does, Sam.
So Nigel puts the move on Mario Andretti. Mario, who won his first oval race here on the Milwaukee Mile, and now begins to pull away. So Mansell solidly in sixth place.
When he pulls away from Mario like this, Paul, that's an indication of what dirty air does, or the air that's disturbed behind him. You saw that he had a hard time passing Mario, but as he gets by Mario, he just pulls away like with ease.
So back to the front of the field. This is the fight between the leader, Raul Boesel, and second place, Emerson Fittipaldi. And Emerson is closing down.
He's closing down fast. Now watch him. He'll be working and faking Boesel just like Mansell was doing Mario. He'll be looking for both L's. He's close enough now to see where his weaknesses are.
And Bobby, Emerson is running a high line the way Mansell did too. That would seem to be very effective at this point.
Looking back from Arie Luyendijk's car as the leader, Raul Boesel, comes around, and Fittipaldi comes right up to the inside. Looks like they're going to try and split Arie. They do. Who gets the best line into the corner? It's Fittipaldi for the moment. But Boesel sweeps around the outside, and there comes Goodyear, too.
Boy, that showed you that there's a groove on the outside of this racetrack. They were 3 abreast in there for a little while with some of the cars.
So change in several positions at the top of the order. Scott Goodyear taking advantage of that positioning. As he moved to the outside, so did Boesel. Fittipaldi forced down low, and as a result, dropped back 2 positions, now runs in third.
This is the kind of explosive change of emphasis that can happen on this track. Emerson Fittipaldi, menacing for the lead, is suddenly dropped back to third and is being hunted down himself by Robbie Gordon.
Raul Boesel at the front of the field has led now with his run thus far, more laps, 19 laps. That's more than he's led in his entire career, and he's doing it here today. But chasing him, we talk about the changing face of IndyCar racing. There's Scott Goodyear looking for his second win. He sat on the pole at the Phoenix race and desperately would like to see his scorecard climb higher and higher.
As you watch the cars going around, realize that the racetrack is getting the oil, the water, whatever it is that they're going to leak early on the track. Makes the track slippery in places. Sometimes you'll see some of the guys get down really close to the grass, and you'll see another guy trying to pass him get way to the outside, the top of the groove, we call it. And it's all because the track's getting slippery.
This is a real test of the nerves of Raul Boesel. He was able to pull away earlier. He might have thought he had an easy race coming up. Now one driver after another is taking a shot at him. Will he let him by? Can he hang on to the lead? It's very tough because right now I don't believe he race coming up. Now one driver after another is taking a shot at him. Will he let him by? Can he hang on to the lead? It's very tough because right now I don't believe he has the fastest car on the track.
Now it's a 3-way fight at the front as Fittipaldi closes in once again, and there is traffic again, lying just ahead of Raul. Goodyear looks to a little higher line. Fittipaldi is able to close on the approach to the corner.
You hate it when you're leading a race the way Boesel. Look at this, Emerson
Fittipaldi tries his move down inside. Goodyear slams the door on him.
You hate it when you're leading a race and you see traffic up ahead of you because you know you may have to back off for a second, and the men who are behind you may be able to anticipate what's going on and surge by you.
One of the things that you saw right there with Emma going under Goodyear, he comes off the turns faster. And the idea there is to pass him down the straightaway, but he already told Goodyear where he wanted to pass because he wasn't able to get by. Now Goodyear is going into the turns a little harder and a little deeper right there because he thinks that's where Emma thinks he's going to get him, Paul.
Goodyear sitting right up on the back end of Raul Boesel. It's Boesel.
Here it is.
Looking for racing room, and this is where Goodyear can get him, but he might get trapped. Indeed he does. Now he's forced outside. In fact, really has to come out of the throttle there, and that allows Fittipaldi to close in.
Boesel is playing this traffic brilliantly.
At 50 cars, Dave Coudrave, as we take a look at Paul Tracy, who continues his battle with Robbie Gordon, and Tracy is now in 4th place. Coudrave wisely moves to the inside because here comes the rest of the field as they come streaming past, and Paul Tracy is on the back end of his teammate's car. That's Fittipaldi just ahead. Coudrave stays down low. Very wise move as the fight continues at the front, and Scott Goodyear tries Raul again.
That's kind of hard on Boesel right there because he's got to look at that traffic way down the road. Just imagine that you're in his seat. He's got to figure out where all those lap cars are going to go. In the meantime, he's got that vulture called Scott Goodyear right behind him.
And remember, too, that some, like Coudrave, can get out of the way. Others are in a battle for their own and have no interest in getting out of the way for the leader. And look at Fittipaldi as he comes down, tries to get Goodyear again.
Yeah, and the line you want to take defensively is a shallow line, a tight line, to make the other guy go around you. but the high line is the fast line right now. So you really, if you're leading this race, you're not sure which line to use some of the time.
The leaders stay in touch as they come around Jimmy Vasser.
A perfect example of what you said, Paul, is a man may be fighting his own race, is Teo Fabi in the yellow car that they're coming up on right now. The leaders are closing on Fabi. He's about to be lapped for the first time, but he's running well up and has no intention of just giving way.
And Fabi actually locked in a battle with the 11 car.
There it is.
There it is. And Scott Goodyear comes around. Fabi's locked in a battle. He's trying to catch Adrian Fernandez just ahead of him. But Goodyear now picks up the lead of the race. Boisel goes back to second, and now Fittipaldi closes on Raul.
Now that just gives you an example of what traffic does. Boisel picked the wrong lane. Goodyear got on the outside of him, locked him in, couldn't move after that, and drove right on by.
Now the two Penske cars dueling it out.
Of course, familiarity with the other drivers is what really counts when you're in this position, knowing where you think they may go.
Fittipaldi in the number 4 car, Paul Tracy just behind in the number 12 car.
So Fittipaldi sits in third place. Boisel has dropped back to second, and Scott Goodyear has picked up the lead of the race for the first time today. There are 47 miles, 47 laps complete of the 200 lap scheduled distance here on the Milwaukee Mile. Back at the Miller Genuine Draft 200, Scott Goodyear is still the leader as we look at the interval leaderboard. Raul Boisel still in second, but notice that Paul Tracy has managed to get around his teammate Emerson Fittipaldi. He did that just a few laps ago. We can go back and take a look at that situation. As Emerson Fittipaldi and Paul Tracy were battling one another, Tracy had been trying him several times. They came onto the backside, side by side. Tracy looked for any opportunity he had, then darted past, catching Fittipaldi up behind the slower Hiro Matsushita, and got into third place. Let's get a further update on that situation, though, from Jack Arute.
Well, Paul, one of the problems that you have is you watch the race from pit road, you can't see the backstretch. That's not a problem for crew chief Derek Walker on Scott Goodyear's car. They have installed a monitor in their pit position, and they watch that pass. I asked Walker what was going to happen. Was the car pushing? Was it loose? He said, no, it's just fast. Listen, though, they are going to try and make this race on only 2 stops, making no changes in about 7 laps when they bring the car onto pit road.
Paul Tracy now moves on Raul Boisel, sticks the nose down under him. Boisel running in second place, won't have it at this point, but Tracy stays right there with him.
When Tracy switches on like this, he becomes one of the most aggressive men in auto racing anywhere in the world.
Look at that as Tracy just blows past him, but Boisel is not going to give it up. Boisel stays on the outside, continues to radius just outside of Tracy, but he doesn't have the power off of the corner.
You can just see that the groove is down low right now. They're wearing the top powder. It's getting a little bit slippery right there. So the guys are heading to the bottom and going faster.
Fittipaldi is moving up to attack Boisel next. So Boisel, who led, of course, so much of the early going, is starting to fall back. Here comes Fittipaldi making a bid on Boisel.
Remember, too, the tactics of this race, though. You want to try and conserve fuel. Robbie Gordon closes in on the back of Fittipaldi. At the same time, here comes Nigel. Nigel moving to the inside of Gordon. Gordon tries to the outside of Fittipaldi. He hangs on the outside. Bobby, I thought you said it was slippery out there.
Well, it's slippery for some and not for the others, obviously.
Apparently not for Robbie. Now you're on board with Nigel Mansell. He has Fittipaldi just ahead. Looking ahead of that is Robbie Gordon.
Often, Paul, when guys are getting past, they come to life all of a sudden. A lot like Robbie Gordon was doing there. He's really come to life. And they take different lines through the turn than they've been normally taking. And they find out, hey, it's good. Now look at way out there that Nigel is. Now he's out there testing that right now to see if it's sticking.
Rick Mears and Roger Penske both watching from the pits. Mears now a driver consultant with his team.
Bobby's point is a really good one. When you're bottled up behind traffic, you can test a line to see what's going to work for you when you need it the most. As long as you're not in a position to gain places or time, you can experiment, and Nigel Mansell took full advantage of that opportunity.
So Nigel Mansell now is sailing forward through the field, still led by Scott Goodyear. Paul Tracy still in second. Then Boisel, then Robbie Gordon, then Nigel, then Fittipaldi, then Mario Andretti in 7th. In 8th is Scott Brayton. Bobby Rahal is in 9th, and his teammate Mike Groff is in 10th.
What do you think Nigel Mansell thinks of this race after a year in Formula One? He probably hasn't passed this many cars in an entire season as he has so far in this race.
Let's go down to the pits, Jackaroo.
And Paul, we're in the window for first pit stops, and it looks like they will be under green flag conditions. Remember, there will be a speed